Hey there, everybody, Alex Newman here with the New American. We are still at the Red Pill Expo, and with us we have a very special guest, Representative Brad Tschita. He should be well known to readers of the New American, just a phenomenal legislator, one of the best in the state of Montana. I'm not saying something because Montana is a great state. Today we have him with us because he introduced just an incredible bill that I think is going to have really significant reverberations across the country. Representative Tschita, tell us about your bill to bring the social media companies under the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission.
Well, Alex, thanks first for having me here. The bill was initiated by a number of folks, and we had a gentleman down in Arizona who put an awful lot of time into putting it together so that we had it comport with public law. I think it was 230. I think it's USC 230. And we didn't introduce any fines. We had penalties for people who were going to violate the rights of citizens to express themselves. We wrote the bill so that the Public Service Commission would treat them just like any other organization, like any other utility. And unfortunately, we had a variety of folks in our own caucus, probably about 20 of them that voted against the bill. And sadly, it went down. Then we introduced the companion bill over in the Senate. Teresa Manzella carried it. Same fate over there. We had some folks who run like Republicans, vote like Democrats, who then opposed that particular bill, and it went down to defeat as well. But we know that there's a place for that. We know that it was probably the best written bill in the U.S. We're going to introduce that again in 23. I'm running for a Senate seat. Hopefully, after being reelected, I will introduce that bill again, and we'll get it across the finish line in both the House and the Senate.
Excellent. So tell us about the mechanics of the bill. How would the bill work? Because I know several other states have tried to rein in the big tech companies. In fact, my state of Florida just passed a piece of legislation. But I understand yours had something unique about it that kind of made it compatible with the federal statutes that you mentioned. So tell us, how would the bill have worked? What would have happened when, say, Facebook or one of the big social media companies discriminated against somebody for being Christian or for believing the Bible or whatever?
Well, the first thing that would have happened is we would have asked the party that was aggrieved to go back to the offending party and say, hey, look, you guys are doing something you shouldn't do. Please stop. If they ignored that or said, hey, go pound sand, we're not going to do anything about it, then the next step was take it to the Public Service Commission and have them intervene, evaluate the merits of the case, determine whether or not the company was engaging in censorship. At that point in time, the Public Service Commission would render their decision, and the big tech company would have an opportunity at that point to say, yes, we'll go ahead and cease and desist, or we're going to continue with it. If they didn't do that, then the final step would be taking legal action. So we wanted to give a three-part step or a three-step process to that situation that's going to occur. We want to make sure that if somebody feels aggrieved, they go to the company themselves and they just say, look, we want to have this settled. I mean, I think scripturally it says, you know, if you have a complaint against your neighbor, against someone, solve it on the way to court. Don't take it to court. So we want to have two intervening steps. Us going right directly to the tech company, or an aggrieved party going to the tech company saying, we want to get rid of the practices you're engaged in. If you don't, then we're going to take it to the Public Service Commission. They can levy fees for those companies, in effect, censoring a private citizen. And they could be very hefty. It could have been, I believe, up to 1% of their gross revenue per day. And then the final logical step would be to take it to court, you know, submit a claim or submit a complaint against them, and then let the legal system resolve it. Well, we want to have intervening steps so we weren't going directly to the courts.
Excellent. And you know, you hear oftentimes now from the companies themselves and from other, well, they're private companies. They should be allowed to discriminate if they want to. If they don't like you because you're Christian, then they should be allowed to silence you. Why do you disagree?
Well, there's nothing in their user's guide or the contract that you have with them that says that they can discriminate. But they're given certain protections, just like other utilities are, that you can't go after them legally to begin with. At least they've got a certain amount of immunity. So they're acting. You know, they're supposed to act as a source of public dialogue, as a free exchange of ideas. But what they're doing now is they're acting more like a publisher or a news magazine saying, well, this is certain information that we don't want to see published. So they're giving up, I believe, in my estimation, they're forfeiting some of the immunities that they've claimed under USC 230. And if they're going to continue to censor folks and act more like a publisher of material that they like, or as an editor of material they like or don't like, then they forego the immunities that they should have as a tech organization.
Very good. And what other issues are there in Montana? I mean, what are some of the other issues that you're focused on as a lawmaker in the state of Montana? I know right now there's a lot of concern really across the country, but especially in the conservative states about the federal government just being completely out of control. What are some of the things you're working on in Montana? What are some of your top priorities?
Well, right now we've got an issue with our Supreme Court. We had a variety of judicial individuals who were asked for their opinion on certain legislation. They provided feedback, and then the administrator of the Supreme Court took those emails, recorded what the responses were, and deleted the emails, which is public information. So the Select Committee of the House and Senate went after them and said, hey, look, we need those emails, and they have not allowed their administrator to provide those, and they are not recusing themselves, saying that we can be objective. Even though it's one of our employees, we can be objective when it comes to a matter involving our employee. They're not allowing their own particular emails to be made public. They're not allowing the emails of that individual, the administrator who received them, to be made public, even though they are public information. I can't hide my emails from anybody. I'm an elected official. Those folks are elected as well, and as a result of that, anything that they publish should be privy to the public overview. We also deal with issues on Second Amendment rights. We had House Bill 102 introduced by a fabulous Representative Seth Burgley. The university system is now, the Montana university system is taking it to court to challenge whether or not college students can carry or possess guns on campus. They say because the Constitution gives them the right to oversee education, that they have full authority to prevent somebody from exercising a constitutional right. But they leave out an important part. It says that they have rights, but those rights are provided through legislation that the House and Senate approve when they meet every 2 years. So, there's a court battle going on, and we're just going to go out and fight for the rights of individuals, whether they're in college or whether they're in a public place, to be able to carry a weapon because it's a constitutional right. So those are a couple of big things. And I think what's going on in other states, we're seeing the erosion of rights because of the overreach of federal government, and we're trying to do some things about that. We're trying to deal with the federal government attempting to prevent us from nullifying acts, whether they are not a law, but an executive order that comes from the president, or something else that's not gone through the legislative channels. If they try to provide that as a law, we want to be able to negate that. So those are some of the things I think that are big issues that we're dealing with. The everyday, I don't want to call them mundane, but the regular issues of life, of liberty, of personal property, those are also things we're dealing with. So it's, we meet every 2 years for 90 days. It's hard to get a lot done in that 90-day period. You compress a lot of it in, but I think overall we accomplished a great deal having a Republican governor, somebody we knew was going to stand behind the good legislation that we passed and wasn't going to give a backdoor to those who might want to look on the surface as if they were conservative, but then could hide behind the backstop of a liberal Democrat governor who would veto a bill even though it had support from members of his own party.
Very good. And last question, Representative Tschita. What advice do you have for just average citizens who want to be involved in the process, who are concerned about the efforts to undermine their freedoms? How do they get involved? I mean, maybe they don't want to run for office, but what are some things that they can do?
Well, we heard yesterday from one of the speakers that it's important for people. I think it was Dr. Shiva who said we're fighting to regain our liberties. We're not fighting to protect them because a lot of them are gone. So the first thing that people ought to do is go to their local Republican Central Committee, or if they're an independent, a Democrat, whatever it is, go to your Central Committee and find out who your candidates are and really vet the people who are running for office, because that's one of the biggest issues. I find people call me all the time and say, well, which judicial candidate or which person should I vote for in this election? And people aren't taking the initiative to do their own research. So do your own research. I'm available. I'll provide information to anyone who wants to talk to me about a particular issue or candidate. But I think it's important for people to get involved and to get to know the candidates and the issues. Another thing that they can do is serve as a member of a precinct, as a precinct captain, so that they can get to know the candidates, the issue, the political lay of the land, and then they ought to get involved if they can. They can run for different county boards, they can run for a library commission, they can run as for the school board, and then maybe eventually they say, you know what, I really feel like I need to take a step beyond that and run for city council, county commissioner, maybe look at a statewide elected office. But the first thing to do is to find out how the process works, start talking to people, get involved, become educated on the issues, educated on the candidates, and really take take interest in it, because what's happening now is the incrementalism that we never fully expected to see the results of have now blossomed. And we have to fight to regain the freedoms that we've lost. And I met today with a group of young folks from South Dakota, North Dakota, who are on fire, good, solid individuals who really want to protect and preserve the country, the republic that we have. And more people like that need to get involved. So I don't care whether you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, get involved somehow and start at the local level, because as they say, all politics is local. So the more you can do at the local level, the better off it is.
Awesome. Well, Brad, thank you so much for what you're doing. Folks, this is Representative Brad Tschita from the state of Montana. Check him out. Check out the state of Montana. They're doing some amazing things there. And stay tuned for more. We'll be back shortly. Thanks again.